A hiker steps off the trail in Arches National Park, just for a minute. But when she turns to head back, the trail is gone. The landscape looks unfamiliar, and time starts to feel strange. For her, hours pass as she searches desperately for her way back. But when she finally reunites with her boyfriend, he says she was only gone for a few minutes. Her fitness watch tells a different story. This is Odd National Park, where the natural meets the supernatural. Odd National Park features your true paranormal stories about strange, unexplained experiences in national parks and beyond. Help us keep telling strange stories from the edge of the map by visiting the support page at oddnationalpark.com. Thank you. Claire from Spokane, Washington, sent in tonight's story. She was hiking in Arches National Park with her boyfriend when she stepped off the trail to take some quick photos. What followed was a search for the path that seemed to twist reality. Hours passed for her, minutes for him. And when they checked her GPS tracker, what they saw didn't make sense. Arches is a strange place, otherworldly. With over 2,000 natural stone arches, it feels less like a park and more like the ruins of some forgotten world. Towering fins, narrow slot canyons, and wind-sculpted bridges make the landscape feel like it's always shifting, even when it's perfectly still. Most of these arches are carved into the slick rock member of the Entrada sandstone, a layer of rock formed from ancient coastal dunes some 140 million years ago. It's a formation prone to erosion and fracturing, conditions that, over time, gave rise to the surreal architecture that defines the park today. It's easy to get turned around here. Distances feel wrong, landmarks blend together, and sometimes the trail you thought you knew disappears. Some see this high desert environment as a place of transformation, a place where time behaves differently, where people can lose themselves, and not always in the poetic sense. Tonight, we follow Claire through a stretch of desert where time unraveled, direction vanished, and something she still can't explain, left its mark without ever leaving a trace. Here's Claire's story. I never thought I'd have an experience that would have me share it on a show like Odd National Park. But something happened to me last spring in Arches that I still can't explain. My boyfriend and I were hiking out to Dark Angel from Devil's Garden. It's beautiful out there. It's the kind of place that doesn't even feel real. Stone arches, narrow ledges, and that deep desert silence all around you. We started early to beat the heat and got past most of the crowds by the time we reached Landscape Arch. After that, the trail gets more rugged and a little less obvious. Scrambling over slick rock and weaving around fins, it felt like we were finally in it. The sun was already high in the late morning, casting hard shadows along the redstone surfaces. There wasn't a cloud in the sky, and the heat hadn't peaked yet, but you could feel it coming, dry and sharp, the kind that starts to pull the moisture from your skin before you notice. The air smelled like dust and juniper, and aside from our footsteps, the only sound was the distant call of ravens. It was one of those moments where the beauty of the place settles in, and so does the silence, the kind that feels peaceful at first, until it doesn't. At one point, my boyfriend stopped to take a water break and eat a snack. I saw this little ridge just off the trail and wanted to climb up to get a better photo of the view. It wasn't far, maybe 30 or 40 yards. I told him I'd be right back and walked up to grab some shots. I took a few photos, turned around, and started heading back down. That's when things got weird. The trail was gone. I knew where I thought I'd come from, but the rocks all looked the same. I figured I'd just loop around and start walking in what I assumed was the right direction. But the more I walked, the more unfamiliar everything looked. I couldn't see my boyfriend where I thought I left him. No sound, no sight of other hikers, just this eerie stillness, like the desert had gone quiet all at once. At first I thought, okay, I just got turned around. But what came next made me question everything I knew about being lost. I should probably mention I'm not new to hiking. I've done solo overnights in Olympic, led group hikes in the Cascades, and I'm always prepared. I know how to track my position, how to stay oriented, how to keep calm. But that day in Arches, nothing about it made sense. Within a few minutes of trying to get back to the trail, everything felt wrong. Not just I'm lost wrong. Everything felt off. I kept hoping I'd spot the trail again, or at least hear a voice. Nothing. That's when I decided to turn on the GPS function on my fitness watch to track my steps. It felt like the smart thing to do. A little unbiased tech to provide clarity in the midst of my confusion. I looked around and kept thinking I saw familiar formations, little rock outcrops or twisted junipers, but when I got closer, they were slightly different, just enough to throw me. It was like the landscape was mirroring itself. I walked a few hundred yards, but it seemed like I wasn't getting anywhere. I called out to my boyfriend a few times, but the sound felt like it didn't carry. It just dropped. No echo, no wind, like the air was swallowing it. The stillness got into my head. I could hear everything. My water bottle sloshing, my breathing, my boots grinding on the stone, but nothing else. I started nervously checking my fitness watch, hoping it would give me something solid to hold on to. A breadcrumb trail out of the confusion. It had a compass, but even that felt unreliable. The needle seemed to drift, pointing in directions that didn't make sense. The more I looked, the less it helped. It was like I'd been walking through static. I couldn't tell where I'd started, or if I was moving at all. The weirdest part? Time. I'd swear it had been 10, maybe 15 minutes, but when I looked again, it had been almost an hour. I wasn't exhausted, I wasn't overheating, but it felt like time was sliding out from under me. I kept walking, thinking eventually I'd spot a cairn or a footprint, but the landscape just kept folding in on itself, like a maze that didn't want me to find the exit. That was when I realized I hadn't seen a single person or animal in all that time. It was just me and the rocks. Then I saw something that made me stop. A curved stick, wedged between two rocks, almost perfectly centered. Around it, small pebbles laid in a rough loop. It looked unintentional, but also not, like something had shaped it. Not a cairn, not a trail marker, just a shape. A loop, an oval. A sideways 8. I told myself it was just a coincidence, a pattern I wanted to see. But the moment I stepped past it, I felt the hairs on my arms rise. I still don't know what that was, but it felt like a line I wasn't supposed to cross, and I crossed it anyway. I don't know how long I kept walking after I saw that loop of stones. Time was slipping. The landscape kept folding into itself. I tried to stay grounded, to trust the basics. Sun, direction, pacing. But it was like none of it was working. Nothing stuck. At one point, I built a cairn. just a little stack of rocks to mark where I'd been. I walked 50 paces and turned around, and it was gone. Not kicked over, not hidden, just missing, like it had never been there. That's when something cracked inside me. I dropped to my knees and put my head in my hands, right there in the middle of the slick rock. I was shaking, confused, and for the first time, actually scared. Not of the elements, not of being alone, but scared that something bigger was happening, and I didn't understand what it was. And then I heard his voice. "There you are." I looked up, and my boyfriend was standing maybe 10 feet away. Same spot I'd stepped off the trail from to take photos. Same view, same patch of scrub. I hadn't gone anywhere. At least, not in any way that made sense. I asked him how long I'd been gone. He looked confused and said, "I don't know, 10 minutes?" I was drenched in sweat. My legs ached. It felt like hours. He helped me to my feet and gave me some water. Then we checked our watches. The GPS tracker on my watch was still running. It said I'd hiked more than 10 miles for over 2 hours. And then we noticed something else. The times on our watches didn't match, not even close. My watch was hours ahead of his. It was like I'd been somewhere else, moving, walking, covering miles, without ever leaving the spot I started from. When I synced my watch with my phone, the map showed more strangeness. 10 miles recorded, but the path never moved. Just a single dot, like I'd been pacing inside an endless loop in the desert. I don't know how to explain that, but I know I didn't imagine it. I've gone over it in my head 100 times, but there's nothing to make sense of. I didn't hallucinate. I didn't black out. I wasn't dehydrated. My watch didn't glitch. It tracked every mile like it always has. I know what I felt. I know how far I walked. And I know I was in the same spot when my boyfriend found me. So where did I go? I don't have an answer. I just know that for a few hours, in the middle of a clear day, something shifted. Like time and the desert folded in on themselves, and I got caught in the crease. You don't have to go anywhere to disappear. Sometimes the ground stays steady, and reality slips out from under you. Claire didn't fall off a cliff. She didn't wander for miles through the backcountry. She stepped off the trail to take some photos, and somehow lost hours. This wasn't just missing time. It was something else. A slip, a shift, like the landscape had opened just slightly, folded her in, and then, just as quietly, let her go. We tend to think of wild places as wide open, full of space and wind and sky. But maybe it's in the stillness where things hide. Maybe it's in the places that don't move that we find the strangest paths of all. Claire didn't return with answers, but she returned. And sometimes that's enough. If you've experienced something strange, unexplainable, or quietly haunting in a national park or anywhere in the great outdoors, we'd love to hear your story. You can share it anytime at oddnationalpark.com. And to help keep our little campfire burning, visit the support page on the site. Every bit helps us continue exploring where the natural meets the supernatural. Thanks for tuning in. I'm James, and this has been Odd National Park.